In the Zoom meeting the other day, the question came up as to how I decide where to go to shoot or what to shoot. I don't remember it specifically, but all those things are good questions. And I got into it and I started looking back at some things that led up to a series of photographs, a body of work, that is, images that have a similar visual aspect as well as perhaps content. Um, that's not required, but there has to be something there that it looks like it fits with all the others. When you put everything together, nothing visually looks out of place. Decided to start with my very first camera, which I still own. I don't know how that happened. Lots of things I don't have, but right there in the middle of the picture, up there on the shelf behind the glass with everything else, is that first camera, a Sears camera, a Tower camera, that I just loved and used quite a bit. Um, uh, Also wanted to put this picture in. I started taking pictures around 7, 8 years old, and there's my dad showing me how to use the camera. Uh, Not my picture. My picture is the oldest I have, is this one, a picture at a factory I worked at in South Dakota while I was going to the university there. And most of those are gone. There was a flood and the eggs and the prints washed away. Happened to have that one, so that's as far as I can go back for that. Um, this is a painting I did in high school, about a sophomore year in high school. I did a series that's like that. Unfortunately, none of those survived either, but I did get a picture, a photograph, which is kind of nice. Uh, when I got out of art school, I did some things, and then I went to Germany to be in the Army and did a series of things over there like this with a pinhole camera. There were some other things I did too. Of course, I did a lot of tourist shots, a lot of friends and family type shots along the way, but those things that came out towards a body of work were things like this pinhole shot that I still have from that. Well, came back and I needed to support the family, and I did this. I went and shot weddings. Um, Not something I care to do anymore. Um, and uh, as as it happens, excuse me for looking. I got this uh, thing that should be going away down at the bottom. There we go. Um, it did well. I don't advise that for anybody. Wedding photography really sucks and takes a lot of work. I had a guy who was a carpenter there with us who said he never had a job where he had to go out and work in a factory doing carpentry work, anything that was nearly as difficult as wedding photography. So, you can make a lot of money, but it's very hard, folks. Consider that. Um, do have a few pictures of pictures I took while I was at the Art Institute here in Chicago. A lot of those were lost also in the same flood, but this is where this body of work starts. Want to know where I went? Well, I went to Dam number 2 on the Des Plaines River, and the reason I went there, we had picnic there, and there were some things I saw that I thought I'd like to take pictures of, and went there a couple of times. And I'll go through them. They're all black and white. This is still film. Um, and looks like I might have a duplicate here. Yes. I like taking the pictures there, but in fact, this was hung at a show at CLC, this particular one. Got accepted. This one in particular was one that I liked, and I took these and I saved some of them in a spot where they didn't get damaged. Uh, that series, and when I started teaching again, I wanted to start working on my artwork again and not wedding photography. And what I thought was, well, where do I start? I'll go back to the river. In fact, I went back to the same spot. I threw this one in here because this is from the first series of digital images I took. It's been altered. Can't find the original ones. The files for those are missing. But this is what that was like. And, well, it was like after I modified it in Photoshop, I should say. Went to the river, though. This is in that spot in the Des Plaines River where those black and white pictures were. And I took some things to put in the river. Went there a couple of times and also started using some corn syrup to color the things that I was taking pictures of. This is just to show you where it was. And I think this particular slab of rock you could see in some of those black and white ones. Started doing some things like adding bubbles like that. And here's one that's a particular influence about what I did later. Getting up close and taking pictures of these huge seed pods with color added to them, added to the subject, not to the photograph, as is done here. And here is one of those shots that I took that is black and white in that spot that led to a lot of other things. I wanted to do that type of thing, and I decided I could do some of it at home. This is pretty much how this eggplant looked. I added a couple of things, of course, this little green monster guy down here, and the background with the sky. But other than that, that's pretty much how it looked and how I photographed it. It was pretty old. And I did notice something in it, a certain type of a look that I was getting with digital that I never got before with film. And liked that a lot and decided to pursue that quality, visual quality in this picture for other things later on. Took those glass balls I had out in the river, brought them home as well, in this case with the cantaloupe, started taking pictures like that, and then making modifications in Photoshop as I saw fit. It was a lot of fun, played around a lot. I love the fact that I was able to get some things like this that were extremely sharp, a lot of things going on that I particularly was enamored with that I never ever could do in film, and it just sort of built. Here's another one with the glass ball. And I was shooting these primarily at home with a white backdrop in a spot where I particularly liked the light. And this is another thing that I would do. You look at what you shot, series of things in bridge and such. And usually when I do that, I come up with one, wow, that looks good. In this case, it was this one in the lower corner down here. And this is that picture. Sorry about that. I did not leave it like that, but I saw some potential, and this is the picture I ended up with, which certainly helped me move on my way. I remember showing this to a gallery director up at Woodstock and got a real cold reception on it. Don't let that happen, you folks. If you do something, don't let me or somebody else tell you it's bad. Don't do stuff like that. This led to a lot of other things. Here's another series, and this one in the middle in particular, this 3828, I liked a lot. And there is that as shot image. Of course, I was going to do some things in Photoshop, and there it is. Added a sky with those pink puffy clouds behind it. Rest pretty much the same. This is something for which I had the same experience around 2002, but the only problem is I can't find the original image. I only have the one where I modified it. I do have another one. This series of photos, the one up at the top, I started doing some things, adding more things to the image. This is the original image, and this is the final one. Had a lot of success with that one. It's a particular favorite as we move along. I also became very enamored with the visual look of light being reflected off of fruits and vegetables with corn syrup and different colors. As you can see here, the droplets in particular I found nice. Primarily looking at how these things will look visually and not so much any content or meaning. They're not supposed to be symbolic of things. Had some carrots I grew in a special way that caused them to mutate like that, and certainly like this idea of putting things inside the globe that weren't there before. Started to take some pictures that seem to have layers on them. This one has a lower, middle, and a top layer on it, and it made me think of doing diptychs and triptychs. I did this one, which is essentially a diptych, a dual image, if you will, and this one also a diptych. Got that one exhibited in several spots, again using the carrots that I grew in such a way that they would be misformed. And started to use other things as well. Going into the grocery store, not just getting vegetables, but things like these pig ears that were sold as treats for dogs and beef tongues that were sold as treats for humans. Found some, everything that you see from now on is from a grocery store someplace in the area. Get asked when I'm buying it if I like it, does it taste good? Well, I don't eat any of it, so that's the case. This case I dyed these baby octopi in the refrigerator. Here's a series that I undertook with the same pig's head, and out here on the horizon. Use this one in the 3D image I showed you all, the 3D Mini-Me, where I'm wearing this print with writing on it. And another one I particularly liked how this turned out visually, as well as that. I think they go together as a body of work quite nicely. That last few pictures have similarities in color composition, depth, that type of thing, that you can look at it and say, well, that fits. Yeah, that goes together with that. And did go back out to the water. This is Lake Michigan, of course, and went out and set some things up and added some things as well later on. Now, that's probably the last image of that series that I took. That was out there. That's the most recent of those. Now, something that I found kind of shocking is that some of these got censored. That is, they were taken out of an exhibit or off of the wall. When I did this particular picture I'm going to look at next, one of the other instructors says, well, having seen this, and this is a root of a plant that was out at the Botanic Garden, the root of a Brussels sprout, as a matter of fact, and I took that root out all by itself and plopped it down on the seashore. That's really all there is, that on that. But some folks see something else. There's nothing else there, folks. It's the root of a plant. If you would please, this picture on the right now is the first one to get censored. The president at McHenry County College ordered the art department to take it down, stating it was filthy, perverted stuff. It's just a still life with vegetables, folks. It's nothing more than that. Wasn't intended to be more than that. Something visual. This next one was taken out of an exhibit out at Crystal Lake. It had been hanging on a wall, and they took it down, turned it to face the wall, and said, that's filthy, you can't have it. Well, it's a couple of beef tongues, a couple of pig's ears that have been dried for dogs to chew on, and a sunset in the background. You see something else in that, that's something you're bringing to it. That's not something that's there. Wondered why this one was not censored at that same exhibit. And I say that because there are about 10 cow's testicles in this photograph. What you are looking